Why she chosen India, not US, not California, not Los Angeles, not Texas? Why India?
I could not believe I was seeing like dying puppies and like people just walking by. I saw a dog get hit by a car, people just walking by.
Why Dharamsala people court case?
Yeah. So again, just to let you know, like I know Indians, like over the years, I would get messages saying, Deb, could you move the street dogs in front of my house because I can't meditate? I think the Dalai Lama's messaging is wonderful.
Children get scared and they throw rocks.
But it's not the children's fault. Their parents and grandparents are telling them to do that. What do you think cows need to have a good life? What about stray dogs? What do you feel they need? And then, they don't think that stray dogs deserve the same as cows and themselves, right? After 3 years of doing this and visiting, I was starting to get rumblings that the money I was sending was not going to the right place, that he was pocketing it. I realized that I was very much a dumb American, probably about 42 lakh missing. Worse than the money, though, was that nobody was managing the shelter properly. He's just like dying to go on the block.
This is a breakthrough, our new guest. Hello, welcome to Let's Off Leash, the podcast where we deep dive into the world of animal rescue, pet parenting, and everything furry in between. I'm your host Kasturi Jha, an animal activist, pet lover, and founder of Let's Off Leash, the world's first podcast dedicated to bring your heartwarming stories from the animal kingdom. Whether you are a seasoned pet parent, a rescue advocate, or just someone who loves animals, this is your go-to space for inspiring stories, expert advice, and meaningful conversation about our four-legged friends. So get ready to unleash your passion for animals with me and let's embark on this incredible journey together and join the fight for cruelty-free world. Today we have an extraordinary guest with us. Any guess of the name? No, it's Deb Jarrett, an inspiring animal advocate, and you must be known founder of Dharamsala Animal Rescue, a shelter dedicated to ending the human street dog conflicts in India. Originally from California, Deborah's passion for stray dogs led her to where she spent years rescuing and rehabilitating stray animals. Now, back in California, she continues to be a beacon of hope for the voiceless. Deborah is also proud indie dog mom, Ruby and Jack. Do not forget, she have her own life. She have her own career. Something she dreamt about. But when it's about animals, when it's about love, passion, people do not think about and what exactly she did. Leaving her country, leaving her comfort zone, leaving her career, leaving everything behind. A tech person she used to be before 16 years. When rescue and shelters and donations were not to a trend, social media and everything, but still she fought for it. But something happened in India with Dar she will never forget. We will talk about the scars, Dalai Lama, monastery, how the donations work, is rescue teams really suffering, how government works, how global rescue team works, why she chosen India, not US, not California, not Los Angeles, not Texas. Why India? We have deep dive into all these questions. Even if you have something about this rescue things, about shelters, if you wanted to open it, drop us below. We will give you the answers. So let's dive into. Hi Dave, how are you? Very good morning and welcome to Let's Off Leash.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here. It's been so nice to meet you. And yeah, the Dubai, California time difference is not that easy, but we made it work.
It's what passion about animals for? Four-leg
Yeah.
passion?
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Is
It's
that good?
amazing.
Yep.
Like we starting you starting your day with positive vibe, and I'm ending my day with positive vibe.
Well, I try. I can't say I always do, but I try.
We are excited to invite you, Deborah Jarrett, an inspiring animal advocate and the founder of Dharamsala Animal Rescue, DAR. Deborah, I call you Deb. I will be calling
You
you.
can call me Deb.
So the story began from Tommy, then Oreo, and from woman concerned to Dar. It's a huge story. It's a journey you lived with. Welcome to Let's Off Leash. Let's deep dive into your stories, your experience, and your expertise into animal world. Deb, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. I'm happy to be here chatting with you. You're doing a great job getting the word out about all sorts of animal love and causes, which is so needed.
Namaste. And I am so sorry. You've been to India and you went through many things. And
Yeah, I did. I
trust
did. You don't
me,
have to apologize.
because we Indians believe in warm welcome, Atiti Deva Bhava. But trust me, they are mixtures of people where we met, be it in India, be it in US, be it in UK, Canada, Australia, anywhere, where some of the other people in between the crowd we find are not that welcoming to the what you say guests, right?
Mm. I don't think it has anything to do with me being a guest. I mean, from what I've noticed is that a lot of people in India treat each other that way.
Mhm,
It had nothing to do with me being a guest. I
mhm,
mean, there's good people and bad people everywhere, but I will say that my experience in India in general is people are welcoming, but it's not, I don't know, everybody's kind of has their backs up. You know what I mean? It's everyone's always afraid somebody's gonna try to get one over on them.
mhm, mhm,
That's pretty common. That's not that doesn't have anything to do with
mhm,
me. And I'm not trying to say anything bad about India. I'm just saying the people I work with who are Indian, this is what they deal with. I had lots of Indian friends. I don't feel like my experience was that much different than a lot of what everyone who is from India goes through.
absolutely.
I did have a lot happen within a short time frame,
Yeah,
but all of these things that happened to me also happened to local people,
yeah.
you know?
This
So,
journey started in which year?
well, my first trip to India was in 2008. So I
2000.
used to 2008, so 16 years ago. So
16 years.
long, long,
Wow. Hmm.
yeah, yeah, long time ago.
Yeah. So, what was the reason you landed to India?
Sure. So I used to work in the tech industry
Mhm.
and, I got paid good money. And one thing I like to do for myself every year was to try to travel to a new country every year.
Mhm.
I had the means to do so. And for me, travel, I grew up, my parents, we didn't have that much money, but my parents loved to travel.
Mhm.
And so for me, it's just a way to always get perspective
Mhm.
on your life. Like, you're upset about your job and then you go to another country and you're like, oh, like my little problem kind of means nothing. Like there's so much out here in the world. And for me, it could be just going to another state or a whole other country. So um, I had just gone to Asia for the first time in 2007. I went to Japan and I met lots of um, people from all over the world that live there and also some locals. And I just loved it. And everybody who I met there told me, well, if you really want to blow your mind, go to India.
Mhm.
That's what I was told. So I put India on my trip plans for the following year.
Mhm.
And I just decided I wanted to see, more of Asia. I wanted to see more of this world, very far from America.
Yeah.
that was very different than mine. So that's what brought me to India in the first place.
And you landed to which state?
Well, I ended up going to Himachal, specifically to Dharamsala. I decided to go through a volunteer program. Sometimes I thought that would be good, and this program offered sort of women's skills types of programs. So I figured maybe I could help teach some computers or something, that I had expertise in. I was very naive. So when I got to Dharamsala, the women were all in the fields, like cutting wheat. So there was no women to help. So I ended up getting put into a government run preschool with about, I feel like 10 to 15, probably more like 15, like 4-year-olds. So I don't even want to volunteer with a preschool in my own country. You know what I mean? Like that's not, I love my nieces and nephews, but having to deal with kids, that many kids, is not something that's on my, where I even feel like I can offer much, but I did my best and ended up bonding with lots of kids. But I really had such a hard time with seeing the amount of animals on the street, specifically dogs. I was really, I could not believe I was seeing like dying puppies and like people just walking by. I saw a dog get hit by a car, people just walking by. And I was like, what is going on? And then there was a dog at the preschool. It was like in the basement of a temple, and he was sort of outside, and he was all mangy and scabby and bloody and was barely moving. And these kids were throwing rocks at the dog. And I'm like, and my first thing, because I'm like on the ground trying to see if this dog is alive, and then I'm trying not to kill these kids because like I don't understand why they're throwing rocks at these dogs. And then I kept asking the main teacher at the preschool, like, is there anyone we can call to help this dog? Then I was asking, there was families that lived right near the temple. I was asking them, is there anyone to call for the dog? And everybody was just sort of ignoring me or shaking their shoulders. Mind you, this is 2008. And so I was just like, so I felt like I was just being ignored and that people really just didn't care. And then luckily I met this man who had an NGO, but all they did was like, they had one sort of vet nurse type of person, not even a vet nurse, like somebody who just knew how to do basic treatments. And I said, hey, can you come help this dog? So I wasn't there when it happened, when they came to treat the dog. But when I came back like 2 days later, one of the young men who I had asked previously if there was anyone to call for this dog came running over to me. And he was like, ma'am, like Tommy's doing better. And I'm like, who the heck is Tommy? I don't know who Tommy is. You know what I mean? And he's like, the dog, like you sent the doctor and now we're giving him medicine and we're feeding him. And I'm like, what the hell? Sorry, swearing on your podcast. I was like, nobody seemed to care. And then it sort of like dawned on me, was like, people weren't answering me because they didn't know what to do. You know what I mean? They didn't know that there was anyone to call.
Absolutely.
They just had to learn how to ignore these things because there was nothing to do. So that was my first lesson. I was like, oh. And so that was sort of the moment where I was like, well, maybe, it didn't come to me right away. It took a while, but I was like, maybe if I could start something, if I gave people a number to call and we had people who could care for these dogs, that things would improve. Like maybe I could find more people who would want to give medicine and feed a dog. So that was sort of the whole beginning of the idea of Dharamsala Animal Rescue.
It started with how many dogs?
Well, we didn't start like that. First, I had to find out lots of information. And I knew I ended up learning more about what's going on. And we knew the first thing we had to do was do spay and neuter. And rabies vaccination. So because then I learned that kids grow up, there's like generational fear and loathing of these street dogs, due to rabies, due to being afraid of being bit. And these kids are taught that they should, if they see dogs, to throw rocks at them and run, which is the exact opposite of anyone should do if they want a dog to be friendly to them, So
it's a there is a gap in between education and knowledge of how to deal with animals. This is a part of scare. So children get scared and they throw rocks.
but it's not the children's fault. Their parents and grandparents are telling them to do that.
Absolutely. That's what
It's generational.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
It's generational fear. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And it's all due to no one telling them, no one with knowledge going, listen, this is how we want to interact with stray dogs. We want to be kind to them. So then they're kind to us, And if you're kind to them, we can get them sterilized. We can get them vaccinated. But those things are not part of culture. They're just not. Instead, but I mean, I understand it because people were getting bit and they're dying of rabies. So people in these villages all know somebody who's died of rabies. So I understand where the fear would come from. Yeah. Yeah. So our first goals were to get these dogs vaccinated for rabies and to try to stabilize the population. So you want to change any community of dogs and people, you need to focus on stabilizing the population. So making sure that dogs aren't having babies. You know what I mean? We don't want it to increase, and we don't want people to move those dogs. We want them to stay in that community where they're happy, where they know people, and you can develop a relationship. Then we want to make sure all those dogs are vaccinated for rabies. Then we want to make sure that all the people feed them, maybe adopt them, and then only we have to rescue them if they've been hurt or injured, right? So rescue is something we have to do because there are street dogs, there aren't people adopting them, and there's too many of them, right? So the first thing we did was, we're not a sanctuary. We don't house dogs because all that's doing is taking the problem off the street and putting it in here. And then it's very expensive. You have to find people and food, and then the community just starts feeling like it's a dumping ground. So I don't believe in sanctuaries. What I believe is trying to make the community help with this problem, with the community understanding that stray dogs are our neighbors. We have to get along, and what can we do to get along? So that's sort of been the basis of our program.
Shelter.
Yeah.
So when I was researching about DAR and when I was going deep down into that, the way you work, it's come around like the sterilizations, vaccinations. There is a program which you educate people, right?
Yeah.
Through that, right? So have you because it's a mass culling going on in Turkey? Have you heard about that Turkey government?
Yeah, but I haven't heard any new updates. I know a law passed, but I don't actually know if it's happening or if it's just on hold.
No, it's started. Whenever you get time, go to Let's Off Leash LOL News, Global News.
Okay.
We have the highlighted part. And
you do? Okay.
Yeah, yesterday and today I have shared the Turkey this thing, and we are applying. We are calling global community help because petitions and all are there.
Yeah.
Even
I mean, we signed up with the, I think it was People for Animals who's doing a petition. So we did that prior to the law. You know what I mean? Prior to this getting signed, but then it passed, and then I haven't heard much about it. I've gotten one email about it. So yeah, I think they're trying to keep it hush
Yeah,
hush.
I think LA News, LA, one of the Los Angeles News has been covered.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and they have started protesting about it. And Let's Off Leash is always one step ahead of spreading awareness. See,
Okay.
we cannot do anything, but we can at least spread.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
this
Getting
this
the word out is always great. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
the same thing I have heard in like vaccinations and sterilizations program. What they do, it's really something very different from usual rescue teams or shelter do or does.
Yeah. Well, first of all, culling happens in India as well. Just to let you know, yeah, it's, we deal with dogs being poisoned, and I think 20% of our rescues are just people hitting them on the street, not caring. If you look in the India news, like there's constant violence against street dogs. I'm glad the government hasn't, said, let's just cull all the dogs, because one, scientifically, that doesn't even work. To go back to your question, yes, there are some rescues who don't focus on spay neuter. And that's fine. I mean, it's doing a lot for those. We also focus on rescue because you have to. But rescuing dogs is great. It's good for that one dog, but you're not doing anything to prevent future suffering, right?
Right.
If all you're doing is rescuing and housing dogs, it's great for those dogs. And I'm never going to belittle that. That's wonderful. People are doing wonderful things for dogs, but it's not going to change. There's nothing going to change with the situation. So with this approach, and we didn't make it up, this is what the international community tells you to do to try to maintain a street dog population, see changes. And it's a scientific manner. Like, you're supposed to do population surveys of your area, and you have to hit a certain percentage. Technically, you're supposed to hit 90% sterilization rate within an area to stabilize the population. 90% is super hard to hit because street dogs are smart. You drive up with your van, they just start running. You know what I mean? So, but we would never be able to sterilize as many dogs as we do if it wasn't for us getting the community involved. Because now we have feeders all over the place that can help us catch these dogs. They're friendlier, they're healthier. We can sometimes just give them a treat and scoop them up and put them into the van instead of going around with nets. Now, some dogs still need nets, but how much nicer is it if the community member calls you who's feeding the dogs and saying, listen, I have 10 dogs that need to be sterilized. Can we pick a time for you to come? And then we pick a time to come, and then the dogs are usually, friendlier, and we can more easily get them in the van to go to the clinic. The other thing we've seen a huge change is so even though we still see horrible cases like maggot wounds and hit and runs and mange and all of these things, compared to what the dogs looked like in the beginning, like they would be skinny, ribs sticking out, and they would be mangy or hit by a car or a maggot wound. Now, the majority of the time, they're like healthy dogs that have been hit by cars. So it's a weird problem to have. So from a marketing standpoint, because you have to raise funds, our dogs sometimes that have been hit by cars, it just looks like a big furry dog, and you can't even tell that there's something wrong with it in a photo. So you can't really fundraise with that. But I mean, it's a good problem to have. When I lived in India for 6.5 years, and now I go once a year. And when I first went there in the main market, all the dogs were skinny and hiding, and now they're out, and the chicken man's giving them chicken, and the hotel's giving them scraps, and then they're calling us for help. So it's really changed. It's you can just see that there's less dogs, they're healthier, the community's friendlier, and it helps us do our job.
Absolutely. Because the awareness has been increased. Where you can see India now, the like Ratan Tata kind of business tycoons have came so far and built a 24 into 7 animal hospital.
Who is this?
Ratan Tata.
Tata. Yeah. Yes.
He is one of the most animal love person, and not
Yeah.
only he, and also like celebrities are coming forward in and doing many things for animal shelters, rescue teams. Even they are coming out and helping the feeders. And many part of India nowadays, many police officers, like the government bodies, like advocates, policemen, they also coming out
Yeah.
on
I would
this.
say that's really just in cities. I would say all of that is really just in major cities,
Mhm.
where things are more progressive. I would say that's not the case in the majority of India.
Mhm.
It's not the case in the majority of India is not Mumbai, Delhi, Hyderabad. You know what I mean? Those places you're starting to see celebrities come or where they live, and the police getting more involved, and there's more pet shops, and but you're not seeing that outside of the cities.
Mhm.
Definitely not.
Not
Yeah.
any experience you been through.
Because we've been in Dharamsala for a while, the police is fairly good about doing things, but the SPs switch like all the
Yeah.
time, so it's difficult to keep up, and it's certainly not a priority for them.
Mhm.
You know, and then, yeah, I mean, I know people doing rescues in other areas, and yeah, it's not the same. The police don't listen. I mean, our local government's not really involved. Yeah, it's just not the same outside of cities. I wouldn't say
So
in
because
general. And even when you leave Dharamsala and move outside the area of our work,
Mhm.
it's a disaster. It's like what Dharamsala looked like in 2008. It's just because there's no one there doing any work.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Because
There's no celebrities coming to those areas, and
there
there's
is
no
a
NGO.
concept you've been through, like there is a concept you've been through, or you try to teach commoners about dog and human conflict, be it Dharamshala or be it India. And you've been through for this many things. There is a reason, therefore, I apologize at the beginning of the show that you came to India and you faced this. So, can you share that story, that real life incident you faced to our audience? That what actually happened with you?
Just to let you know, I know Indians that are dealing with similar things.
Mhm.
Like if you start a charity, if you
Mhm.
start this because I know Indians who have started these things around the country as
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
and I know other foreigners.
Mhm.
So I'm not the only one who's had these experiences. So I don't want you to feel like it's your Indian coming after me, because that's not. It did feel like that in the beginning, but then I realized, oh, this happens to this woman and she's Indian. You know what I mean? So starting the charity was very difficult. First, it was really hard to find people to trust.
Mhm.
Um, I realized that the guy that I first started working with,
Mhm.
I was raising funds to get our first clinic built. And I was relying on someone. I was still living in the US, but coming to visit once a year. And I was relying on somebody who I'd met to help get the clinic built, to hire people, to help get the program started. And mind you, I was still learning. I was
Mhm.
still learning about everything that's
Of
needed in
course.
order to run. And unfortunately, what happened was that after 3 years of doing this and visiting, I was starting to get rumblings that the money I was sending was not going to the right place, that he was pocketing it. And I was completely dumbfounded. I'm like, how's that possible? Like, he sends me receipts. I see his books every year. Everything matches up. I'm like, I don't understand. And then one year I'd actually left my job and I came for 3.5 months to India, and it was my intention to figure out what was really going on, like, because I could spend a good chunk of time there. And unfortunately, at the time, I realized that I was very much a dumb American, because had no idea that you could walk into a shop and say, hey, I want to buy this washing machine, let's say, and then the washing machine's 20,000 rupees, let's say. And then the shop owner asks you, well, what do you want me to write the receipt for? So then the guy writes it for 40,000 rupees, and then he hands me the receipt, and I send 40,000 rupees, and the guy pockets the money. So I didn't know that this was very common.
Yeah, and that's in a common language, what we call forgery.
Forgery?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, this is pretty common. This is like a regular thing. And I had no idea. You know what I mean? I had no idea, because here people don't, everything also it's not as much of a cash economy. So it's harder to get away with those things. Now India's changed. It's becoming less of a cash economy as well. So that was one way I realized he was stealing. And then I also realized he was doing things like I would give him money for a new vehicle, and he would take a loan and then take the money and go buy land. Or he would, one time we rented land for large animals, I think, and I forget, he told me he bought the property, but he was actually renting it. And then I don't know, he was like he was a very good scam artist. And I realized that there was probably about 42 lakh missing after I had done all my calculations. So I ended up confronting him. And then worse than the money, though, was that nobody was managing the shelter properly. Okay. And it was also came to my attention that veterinarians in vet schools in India, like, the programming is not focused on companion animals, and it's certainly not focused on street animal or shelter programming. So like things like how to prevent disease, or even what dog diseases are, is not necessarily what was being taught in those schools, especially back then. Like, they were focused on farm animals, like, they were focused on cows and sheep and, then goats, where there was a lot of jobs in the veterinarian sector in India. So I realized that there was disease spreading through the clinic. I realized that there wasn't good hygiene and sterility being done. I realized that I was relying on people who didn't even know how to properly run this program to do it. Again, my naivety, I just assumed that a veterinarian who would know these things, but they don't. And so that was just all new. So I wanted to close the clinic and figure out if I wanted to move forward. So I confronted the man I've been working with and his trustees. I ended up pulling funding from them, and I moved all of the healthy dogs that we had and sick dogs to this other hospital, healthy dogs to this other place, and sort of like closed up shop. I just pulled my funding from there. Although that place still exists to this day, and the government still hasn't kicked the crooks off the property. Like, it's unbelievable. So I pulled funding, and then I had to figure out if I wanted to start again, or if I wanted to just never come back to India. Basically, I tried, I failed. So luckily, I had a lot of community support of people who were saying, listen, we really want this service to continue. This is great. We're so happy, you started this to help the dogs. And so I got an invitation to come to work for someone else, but I had to live there. I had to manage the money on both sides. So I ended up doing that. But then I ended up in court for 5 years with this crook. And we did get some money back to start the new, but the court case is actually still going on. There's like still going on. Yeah. And then I realized people are in court in India for their whole lives because cases never really get. I realized I spent 106.5 years. I spent 185 days in court. It's a lot of time.
And still the case is active?
There's three. One, we won, but now he's appealing. Yeah. Oh, and the other thing is that this man teamed up with other crooks to try to get me kicked out of the country or to blackmail me to give them money again. So I was investigated by your CBI, by your enforcement directorate. I was interrogated for 5 hours. I was at the police station all the time. They were constantly filing fake charges against me. They put out fake newspaper articles saying that I was a crook. I mean, it was bad. It was bad for like 2 years. The first 2 years I lived there, it was pretty bad. Yeah. So that was interesting. And, but you know what? It taught me to figure out how to survive.
Which year you faced all these things?
Lived in India from 2012 to 2019. So the first 2 years were the most difficult because that's when the crooks were coming after me and I was having to get interrogated. The last few, I was having to go to court, but I could have cared less about the crooks. Like I was over it. Like I was like, you know what? I don't care. You can, you know. And then at that point, there were too many other things to deal with, like finding employees who don't want to steal, teaching people why picking up poop is important, you know, like how you can't have disease spread, finding veterinarians, getting them trained. And, you know, there were so many other things going on.
So now that is there, like Dharamsala Rescue is there. So how you are managing? You got some good employees now?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's years later. So I have an incredible director who's in charge of running all the programs on the ground. And then we have trained veterinarians. We have worked with Worldwide Veterinary Service, who comes and properly trains veterinarians and teams on how to run these sterilization programs and deal with dog pain management and deal with disease issues, and really gets people trained to run these programs. And so ever since then, things are well. I mean, we have a great team. Yeah, but it's hard. The hardest thing is keeping vets. But that's a whole other story.
So how you manage? You fly to India like every year or like every?
Yeah. Well, my main job now is program planning, fundraising, awareness, working with my director, budgeting, just doing all of that. You know, I don't need to be in India to do that. You know what I mean? I have a director who's making sure the programs are being run. And I can contact people from here if there's issues.
Now the rescue shelter you are running from California itself.
Yeah. Yes.
So you need to go to India.
But I mean, I'm not doing the day-to-day running. I'm doing the business end, you know, running, because you need a lot of money to run these programs. And you have to do it. You know, just like any business, there is accounting and finance and budgeting and social media and this, you know. So because I now have our great director, I can focus on these types of things, you know. And then I can work with her on making sure our programs are running properly, approving new staff, making connections to expand programs, you know, things like that. So
there is, like, this questions may be a little bit harsh, but you know, many people have this curiosity and many people have this urge to know that you started your journey from rescue, from shelter, from seeing that downfall, right? You have seen that bad phrase. You have rescued by yourself. Then you started and built up this business and this model. You can call it this business model where you are doing this for some good reason because you've been through all these things. Now you're quite experienced about what you're doing. But do you think nowadays shelters and rescue teams became a business, real business for money?
I do not think the majority of the people out there running an actual NGO
Mhm.
are doing this for money. I mean, yes, you have to pay salaries. Yes, you have to. It's like any business; you have to pay people to do this work.
Yeah,
But these people are not doing this work to make a lot of money. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
I still make less than I did in 2012 when I left my tech job. That's how much 12 years later. You know what I mean? So this is not a money making scheme, and at all, at
because
all. Yeah.
see, I know it's a lot of experience, lots of hard work, and the love for animal pull you until this because I have worked with so many shelters, rescue teams. You worked with so many shelters, rescue teams, but there are common people who still think that all rescue or all shelters are not genuine. They still
Oh,
look like,
absolutely. Absolutely, people think that, and that's not something I personally can change.
of course.
All I can do for us is we try to be as transparent as possible
Mm-hmm.
on our work, on what we're doing, um, and so people can trust us. But I will say the thing that's been the hardest for me to watch is in India, there's so many people there's a lot of genuine feeders and caretakers, but there's a lot of people who just post on Instagram, trash NGOs, and then say they're doing the work and give me money to my GPay. Why someone would give money to an individual who's just posting on Instagram to their GPay, I have no idea. Why they would give money there instead of an NGO who has all their just maintaining your NGO status in India is really difficult. So if anyone is like when you're running a shelter, you need to have like your bio waste and your pollution board certification and your ADG and your 12A and your FCRA and this and this and this and this and this. None of that is easy to do. So like if someone is putting in that effort, why wouldn't you trust them as opposed to some individual who could just be walking around taking photos and saying, give me money? So we ended up having to shut down a person like that actually in our town who was pretending she was feeding. She was a really good writer. She would take a photo of a dog saying she was rescuing the dog and then bring it to DAR and then raise money on her.
Yes, these are the people who are creating this.
Yeah, but that I don't know why, but that's because somehow people are trusting these individuals as opposed to an actually established, charity that probably has their finance. You could probably go in and look at their finance. Anyway, so I don't know. That's like,
You,
I don't know what to
you
do about
given what I have asked you, you given the answer by yourself only, because today in social media trending, sometimes it's
it. Yeah,
good, but sometimes it's bad also, because
absolutely. Yeah,
who are actually working in the rescues, in the shelters, day and night, they are rescuing like dogs, cats, cow, horses, and everything, they actually do not have that real time to post in Instagram quickly. Like in 5 minutes, they don't have time to post it,
right,
right?
right,
They need some time.
right.
They will rescue it, they will bring it to the shelter, they will work with that, they will treat them until he or she becomes good, then they will post. It's a trying
Yeah,
process, or else they will hire some social media person who
Yeah.
can post it on behalf of them. But now there are many people, many feeders, I will call, because shelter and feeding street animals are totally different. And
Yeah.
what we talk behind the scene, the first interaction what we had, the first thing which I liked it the most is the story. Feeding a dog is not a rescue or a shelter do only thing. They,
No.
yeah,
No.
you need
Yeah.
vet, you need knowledgeable people,
Yes.
you need people who will pull out, who will pick up the poop and the peas, who will make clean that area, who will clean those dogs, who will take care of the sterilizations, rabies vaccinations, any of the like treating any of the injured
Yeah.
pet treating. So it's an entire process.
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot of work,
Yeah,
and there's no real blueprint for
mhm,
people to follow.
mhm.
So, like, there's the Animal Welfare Board of India, but they don't really give. No one is. There's no national program
Yeah.
helping people get started, because a lot of people, they just get started because it's very emotional. They're so sad. They're so tired of seeing these sick and injured
Yeah.
animals. So they start kind of collecting them. They start saying, and all of a sudden they have like 25 dogs in their house, and
Mhm.
they're like, shoot, I need land. You know what I mean? And then half these dogs are like paralyzed, and they're just like roaming around, and like, is that really a quality of life? I don't know. So a lot of it is just started on emotion, and I get it. Like, even when we first started DAR, I would say yes to everything. Like, people would call us from like hours away, and I would be like, yes, bring back. Now we don't do that. Now we're like, we work in this area. We work in this area. This is the area we're working in, and that's it. Because we won't improve in order to make any real impact in our community, to see profound change. We need to focus on our community. And so, it's hard, we had to learn how to say no. And
Mhm.
so it's sad, because that dog from a few hours away may not make it. But what we're doing is putting pressure back on those people. Go talk to your Department of Animal Husbandry. There's vets there. They should at least be able to do some basic treatment. Every village has a dispensary with a paravet. Like, take the dog there. You know what I mean? There's things and if you want something happening in your community, don't yell at us. Get your local government to do something. Like, it's sort of like, it's hard though, because we get yelled at quite a bit because we won't do these other things.
Mhm.
But that's not our mission. Our mission is not to save every dog in Himachal. It's to make Dharamsala a conflict-free zone where dogs and humans get along, and maybe adopt them. It's like, we want it to be safe. We want people to bond with these dogs, to feed them, or at least just not hit them with cars or sticks or poison them. Like,
Mhm.
how do feeders and farmers get along? We've got to figure out all of these things within our own community before we can just start taking dogs.
Yeah, because when I was researching about more about DAR, about you, about these things, I came to know that a very good program you have been doing, the community involvement in rescue, which is
Yeah,
a
community
very good
involvement and
program.
rescue.
Mhm.
And then one thing I'm really happy, we've done school programs over the years, but it's really hard to get a regular school program going. Schools have so many, there's always exams and this and that, it's hard sometimes to get in. But we did partner up with another NGO, another local NGO, that's a women's rural development
Mhm.
NGO that deals with everything from, women's legal rights to home issues, that sort of stuff. And we've known them for years, and we've now joined their program. So we now are in these rural villages, talking to women and girls, and sometimes men and boys, about different topics. Like, for instance, we just did a program on, so the other NGO called Jagori, they picked the theme. So it was called Fundamental Rights. So they were just trying to teach women that, listen, you have fundamental rights to shelter, safety, food, water, education, friends, what are the things you need to have a good life, So then we came in and we just said, okay, so what do you think cows need to have a good life? Same things, right? Shelter, food, kindness, friends, what about your goat? Does it need exercise, this, that, the other, and then what about stray dogs? What about stray dogs? What do you feel they need? And then they're like, oh, they don't think about that. They don't think that stray dogs deserve the same as goats and cows and themselves, right? There was one man actually just saying there's too many of them. How can we have such a problem? People just start getting, so then we can go in and say, well, listen, if dogs get these things, food, water, shelter, friends, exercise, love, all the same things humans want, then they're happier. Then they're not going to be attacking you. You know what I mean? They're not going to be, there's not going to be conflict. And then we can get them vaccinated easier, and we can get them sterilized easier. And you can tell us, if there's new puppies, like, oh, come here, vaccinate all these new puppies. Like, it's just, we can work together to get better. And one nice thing is, one girl, I think she was around 14, and we had met her a few programs back, and we were encouraging people to feed the dogs. Just like, hey, a good way to start, getting a friendlier relationship going is just to give them some food. And so this one girl came up to us like 4 or 5 programs later and told our team that she had been feeding dogs and that it was going really well. And so it's these little changes that can help change the community. I mean, it takes time, but if we're not talking to the people, then nothing's really going to change for the dogs. Like, sterilize and vaccinate as many dogs as we want, but if the people still hate them and fear them and are mad at the government, then nothing will
kill. They will try to kill them, or they will try to relocate them, harm them.
Or just ignore them or throw rocks at them or not care. Just look at it as more of a nuisance as opposed to a being that also deserves fundamental rights, just like they do.
Absolutely.
Right?
So
so it's always a learning experience.
The more you see, whatever I told you, that the experience you come across, it's a quite long. Like 2008, I literally.
Oh my God! I knew nothing.
Absolutely. Like 2008, you won't trust me, but that's a fact. 2008, I was in class 12.
Oh my God. I knew you're a lot younger than me, but I didn't know how young.
Not that. And literally, when you started this, we also do not know. You understand that?
No, things have changed so much. Things have changed.
So, 2008, Kasturi did not know about all these things. Now, I am talking so confidently because I've been through all these things. I worked with all these things, and I interact with so many people now. But 2008, I was in class 12. So it's an incredible journey you lived with. And it's
what's so exciting for me is that, first of all, it's amazing that you were 12 in 2008. But I do know, like, in 2008, and specifically like around like 2010, 11, 12, like somewhere between 2010 and 2016, like all of these people that were like your age in Dharamsala back then, they grew up learning about Dar as kids, And so now those people are some of the biggest stray dog supporters in the community. So stuff like that makes me so happy. It's like, oh, like these two kids, when they were 16, I think 14 and 16, they learned about dog because they were feeding the street dog, and then started collecting money from their relatives and bringing it into us once a month.
Yeah.
And now those two people have a restaurant and it's dog friendly, and they feed, like during COVID, they were feeding like 200 dogs a day. This is just incredible. And then we have another guy who's like helping us with rescues. He's the same age like you are and was young, and so it's just really, those things are really special. And that's when
the fact, and I know this is a line which I wanted to tell you from core of my heart, that rescue you started at that time when that was a burden. Now it's become trend. So
now it's like a trend. It is like a trend.
But
and people want to be like a hero. Yeah.
It's like, but when you started that time, it was a burden. That we don't want to get rid of it. Come rescue and take it off. Kind of a perception.
Well, it's still that way too. Like even in the villages where we've like sterilized every dog, people will be like, "Can you take them away now?"
Yes.
Like it's still that way, but no, it has become trendy to become a feeder, rescuer, shelter,
and that was not changing. And schools became more active, volunteer program and everything. Yeah. And by like our children grow up, I hope environment will be different for pets. Like how
I think it will.
We are raising our voice, like cruelty free for each and every animal. Like after a few years later, we'll see that maybe this is really become something, that this planet will become so much friendly for animals, equally like humans.
I hope so. I mean, it's just really been nice, and especially nice to see, like, even the like the applications we get, like if we need, like the difference in somebody's actual love for animals is different in the younger generation than the people that we used to hire. Like we used to have to convince people to come work for us.
Correct.
And then teach them stuff. And now we can get people who like, this is the job they want.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is good. Tell me one thing. DAR sustained for long. How did you manage it?
I don't know.
It's literally something you did it. Like, unbelievable.
I don't know. Yeah. I'm not going to lie. There were plenty of times where I wanted to give up. Plenty of times. And then I just didn't, because I was like, well, when I was living there, I was like, I can't stay living here and not do this. You know what I mean? Like, this is what brought me to India. And even though like I have a full life here now, and I was like, how can I live here and not help the dogs? Like, I was like, I just can't, or so. And then when I moved home, just to sort of take a break. I just had been there a long time. I was like, I just need like a mental break. And then COVID happened. So I kind of got stuck here a little bit too. And then realized that I could actually be more impactful here for, because when you're at the clinic, you get involved in all sorts of little things. And so, but if I'm not, then I have more time to focus on doing things like this and spreading awareness and, getting to know our donors better, or take some time planning, like how we want our education program to run or something like that. And as opposed to when you're at the clinic, you're like going on there's constantly something going on. And so it worked out better in this situation where I wish I could go visit like twice a year, but it's really far and it's really expensive. And I also have two dogs
Yeah, Jack and
here,
Ruby. I was about to ask
Jack
that.
and Ruby. Yeah.
How
And Jack has actually been
Jack and
sitting right
Ruby is
here the whole
how.
time. Yeah.
Oh, say hi. Where can I see? Can I see?
You want to say hi? Yeah. Oh, Jack, sorry, buddy. He's just like dying to go on his
Um,
walk. But let's see. Here, hang on one second.
oh, this is a breakthrough. Our new guest. Hi, podcast
So
new guest.
sweet.
Hi, how are you?
He's
Oh,
such a good boy.
such a
And
good boy.
he's such a good boy.
Such a good
He's been so patient. He's and then
boy.
my other dog Ruby is still in bed.
Oh, it's not. It's too early for them.
Too early for her. She's like, you know what, Mom? No, I'm not getting up yet. And I'm gonna stay. And Jack is just right here waiting patiently because we'll go on his walk after we're done.
Oh,
But so yeah, they're both Dharamsala dogs now living in California.
uh,
And Jack, well, I got Ruby first. Ruby, I've had since 2012. And she was a distemper survivor.
from India,
And
from California.
yeah, from Dharamsala. From Dharamsala.
Where from?
Yeah, when I lived there.
Oh,
Yeah.
how did you flown back with Ruby?
It's just a lot of paperwork
Mhm.
and money, and you can get a
Yeah,
dog
I do
from India.
understand because um, my dog also Dodo also came from India to Dubai.
Yeah,
I flown, I know, but it's 2012. Which airline you? Air India?
yeah. Well, no, but I was living in India at the
Oh,
time. I lived in India from 2012 to 2019. So
19.
Ruby, I got in 2012,
Okay.
and Jack in 2013.
Mm-hmm.
So the three of us lived in India until 2019,
And then you three
and then
flown back to
we
California.
flew back.
Which
Yeah,
airline you
yeah. Lufthansa.
Lufthansa.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Lufthansa. They're really good with dogs.
Mm,
So,
yeah.
yeah. So we flew back, and they adjusted very well. They
Mhm.
adjusted very well. They actually, I'm not going to lie, they love it here.
Mhm.
Like the neighborhood I live in, like every little shop has dog treats for them.
And
People are just
peaceful.
petting
No
them.
noise.
Huh?
Like no noise. Peaceful.
No noise, no dog. But yeah, they both had to realize that other dogs weren't street dogs. You know what I mean? They were like, but they love it here because they're treated like kings and queens.
Princess.
So it's really nice.
They're
But
really
they like India too. So it's just easier for me to take them on walks and hikes and things like
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah,
Because one of our behaviorists, we were having the podcast, and he told us that you won't believe one of the most immunized, the most strong immunity dog are Indies.
yeah.
He was
Who
telling
told you that? How does he know?
behaviorist trainer.
Oh, he's a trainer. Yeah. Well, any dog, the problem is like breed dog. Once you start breeding a dog, then you can have all sorts of genetic issues
Yeah.
and things like that. So that's true. Where the Indian dogs, like where they were never bred.
Yes.
This is just who they are. So but the problem is that the average street dog life is only like 3 to 4 years because they get hit by cars. No one's taking care of them. Like litters don't survive. So I think if they were given a chance, like if they were adopted, if they had a healthy mom, they stayed with their mom till 8 weeks, then got adopted, yeah, they'd probably live forever, but that's not the case. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
amazing. So we talked very serious. We talked very deep down about the emotions and everything. But there is a very mysterious part in our podcast. It's rapid fire,
Oh,
where
okay. All right.
we ask really bold and raw questions, which can be
Okay.
sometimes trolling or controversial. But we don't want to. We speak fact.
Okay.
Many
Okay.
people are going to like it. Many people don't going to like it. But we will speak facts. Okay. So are
Okay.
you ready to go with this rapid fire?
I guess. And do I just give like a one word answer? What do I do?
As
What do I do?
as whatever felt like. It will be our
Okay.
own questions, and will like whatever come first in your mind, you will take. Like
Okay.
no
All
time
right.
compression.
Let me take a breath. Take a breath.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. All right.
Let's go for it. I know you will rock it. Okay, so there is a noticeable shift among the new generation where many are choosing not to have kids and instead are opting to adopt dogs as their fur babies. What's your thought on this?
I'm all for it. That's what I did.
Okay.
If you want to have kids, great. But I think I mean, this has nothing to do with dogs, but I mean, if women are able to have choice,
Mm-hmm.
that's all I want. Like that it's not forced on them by society or their family or whatever that they have to get married and have kids.
Mm-hmm.
If a woman wants to decide to not have kids and get dogs or cats or
That's the best thing you
I'm all,
can have.
I'm all for it. Yeah.
Okay, quite bold. Is neutering or spaying pets mandatory or should it be personal choice?
I think it should be mandatory.
Mhm.
I wish breeding would stop, and people would adopt street dogs. I
Mhm.
mean, even in my country, there's huge issues with, here in the US, we do a lot of euthanizing of dogs in shelters,
Mhm.
like hundreds of thousands. Like people have been working to lower it, and it has, but there's just so many dogs. So I feel like a responsible owner should get their dog
Neutral.
fixed. I know there's some countries now that they don't do that, but I think it's because the owners have become a lot more responsible. I'm not really quite sure how that all works, but
Mhm.
yeah, yeah, and if you do get a breed dog, like I even had a golden retriever before my Indian dog,
Mhm.
before I really understood all of what was happening in the dog world. But yeah, I got him neutered. Like I'm not breeding him, you
Of
know?
course.
Yeah.
Because
So
my
that's how
one is also, yeah,
how
golden
I feel.
retriever and
Yeah.
neutered.
Yeah.
And it also
Yeah. And if
explained by the vets also that for long life of any dog, for healthy life, it's better to do the neutered or spay. It's better for their healthy life.
it has been shown, I think, to prevent certain
Yeah.
cancers.
And so that
Also, why do you want like I don't understand why you would want your female dog to have its period and then go in heat and then have, like, if you're on a dog walk and then you have male dogs going
so
after that dog,
yeah,
why do you want that for your dog? You know,
the
I don't
heart rate,
know.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Oh, so one word to describe your pet.
Well, I have two. I think they're weirdos.
Okay.
I think they are hilarious weirdos.
All
I am so yeah. That's it.
right.
Yeah.
Okay. So if your pet could talk, what's the first thing they would say?
Hmm. Well, my dog Ruby is a big talker, and mostly she's just bossing me around. So I think she's like going, "Bitch, get me my food. Bitch, take me on a walk."
And don't you dare to break my treats. You do.
And she also know it makes me laugh when she does it. So yeah, I think I would still laugh if those were the words coming out of her mouth. Yeah.
Very soon we are going to have a podcast with animal communicator. So
Ooh.
oh, she said so many things about like many dogs run away from their house because they have pissed off with their owners.
Oh,
It
really?
is, yeah,
Really?
I laughed
Oh,
so hard that oh my god,
oh,
well, yeah, they run away from the house. They don't want to come back because they're pissed off with their owners.
oh, no, really? I
Yeah,
don't know. I think a lot of dogs run away. Like my golden or go away, but I would find him like at a party down the street
yeah.
and he would manipulate someone to play fetch with him. Like, and then I would like bring him home, you know, or yeah, or Jack, he would just go to friends' houses. Like when we lived in India,
Mhm.
he would just run around our village and he would just go to like a friend's house and like somebody would make him like a chapati and then he'd go home. So I don't know.
Okay. What's your pet's guilty pleasure?
Guilty pleasure. Guilty pleasure. I would say they just want food. They just want chicken or meat. Like they want, if there's like, yeah,
Stealing food.
like yeah, I think food, like if we're walking down the street, there's food on the street. They just want to eat it. Yeah. And I'll be like, if you're going to eat street food, I'm going to put you back in India on the street.
Okay. So, is it ever acceptable to euthanize a healthy animal for behavioral issue?
For behavior issue, honestly, yes. And usually what's sad, it's not the dog's fault. You know what I mean? Like it's probably that they weren't trained as a puppy or their owners trained them for things that are not good, like fighting. Like you hear about these dogs that were trained for fighting. And they've worked with rehabilitation and behaviorists, and they just can never be trusted. So what are you going to do? What are you going to do? And it's just danger. So I think there needs to be strict rules about it. But like we had a really, I don't need to go into it, but we had a really bad incident with a dumped breed dog last year. And it was a breed dog called a Dogo Argentina, which is banned in like most countries. And somehow someone in Dharamsala had bought two and bred them and then dumped one on the street who was like really aggressive. It was horrible. So it's so sad because we ended up finding a home for the dog, but like the dog was only good one-on-one, and you can't have him around small dogs. You can't have him around strangers. Like the owner has to be unbelievably responsible. And we made them sign a waiver because we're like, listen, we don't, most places in India do not have behaviorists and trainers. Like, so we're like, we don't have the skill set to help this dog. So if you're going to take it, then this is on you to find training and be responsible, because it was really scary. It was lunging at everybody who came to Dar. It was not a good environment. The dog was we ended up having to keep it in its own kennel all the time, because if it was out, it would try to kill other dogs. It was horrible. And yeah, so I think there are times when, unfortunately, it is okay. But I mean, luckily we didn't have to do it. But, and again, what's the sad part is it's not the dog's fault, right? It's on us. It's on us,
I told always that it's human always.
Yeah.
Always human.
Yeah.
Okay. Should breeding be banned until all shelter animals are adopted?
I'd be happy with that.
Is it?
Good. I'd be happy with that. Yeah.
Is it ethical to keep animals as pet, or should they all be free in the wild?
No. I mean, the thing is, some of the dogs that have only lived on the street, they're never going to want to come inside. You know what I mean? But so many of them just want a home. So no. And these dogs, they're domesticated. They're not wild.
Hunting.
Yeah. I mean, you can see the difference though. I mean, we get different dogs. Like there's dogs that come in even for just sterilization, and they are so happy to have human attention. They're just, yeah. And then there's other ones that are just like, get me back out there,
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree on your point. So, is the concept of designer dogs harmful to animal welfare?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, this is something, let's see how quick you give answer. If you could be any animal for a day, what would you be? fast.
I guess like a lion or something.
Like,
I want to be in Africa, just sort of lying around, roaming around. Yeah. Sort of like a silent meditation. But I'm seeing some beautiful part of the world that I haven't been to before.
okay, last but not the least, little bit different question. So we have seen like animal cruelty in US has seen a concerning raised, particularly post pandemic, and the Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, like SPCA, has reported an increase in severe abuse cause, including abundant and beating, with arrest and felony charges growing steadily in regions like New York. And
What?
Spectrum local news has covered this.
I don't know about that, but I know the only thing I know, I'll have to read into that, but I know that abandonment, I know about abandonment increasing and uh, giving up the dog. Like
Yeah, and
institutions. That has certainly increased because I think during the pandemic, a lot of people got pets because they're all home and they're like, oh, it'll be fun. And then
Christmas
they're like,
gift, but
yeah.
turned to really not
Yeah.
bad.
And that's been
The
a huge
statistics
problem.
is hilarious. Like with over 10 million animals suffering abuse each year, report shows that into 2021, around 16573 case of animal cruelty were recorded, with states like leading in reported offenses. Texas.
Yeah. 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 Here, though, you can report, just to let you know. So the difference is, like if I had my dog on a chain in the backyard, my neighbor would call on me. In India, nobody's calling on people, right?
No.
So here people call and it gets reported.
Is it
Yeah.
because most of them are telling that 88% of homes with confirmed child abuse also experiences some form animal cruelty.
Well, here's what I know. Here's what I know. Like, for instance, if uh, the way things work, like let's say you have a kid and the kid is abusing animals, then there's a high chance that that kid is then going to abuse his wife or his um, abuse is yeah. So unless you nip the problem in the bud, like I know, for instance, like in domestic violence situations, we've actually also dealt like this with in India, but women sometimes stay because of the pet.
Yeah.
They don't want to leave the pet with the man who may also be abusing the pet and her, right? And then there's no place for this woman to go with her pet, right? Like she could go maybe, but she couldn't get both her and her pet out. And I know there's like a new trend where there's some places that will take the woman and the pet, you know, to help. But yeah, abuse unfortunately is I don't want to use the word generational, but like it is a pattern. You know, like if you were abused as a child, then you might be the abuser, right? And it may start with a parent, and then it may work up its way up to another human. That sort of, I think it goes animals, kids, women. Is that how it goes? I don't remember. Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you understand that things get reported in this country? That's why the things are so high. Barely anything gets reported in India because nobody wants to go to the police and report things, right?
Yeah. So the questions come and which end our podcast like this. Why Deb Jarrett wanted to open DAR in India, not in US?
Because there's 15 million people doing it here. Just within the area I live in, there must be 50 plus rescues. You know, like So I did volunteer at local rescues prior to DAR, and it just didn't feel like there's people doing it. Like the rescue, like there's behaviorists and this and that and the other. And I don't know, but for me, I see where your question's coming from. There is a need everywhere, but here there's people doing things about it. Like in Dharamsala, there was no one doing anything. There was in most of India, there's no one doing anything, and it's all in your face. It's just all on the street. It's all on the road, and that's what, for me, drew me in. I'm like, what is happening here? Like, I'd been to other countries with animals on the street, but I'd never seen anything like this before. And then I had that moment where I realized if there was something here, maybe people would be interested in helping. So that was it.
Dharamsala have one of the biggest monastery of His Holiness Dalai Lama.
Yeah. Yes.
So, don't you think, not don't you think, how many help did you get from there? Like, the trust?
No, we didn't get help. Yeah, I think one thing that also was really interesting to learn was that, people are just people.
Yeah.
There's good Buddhists, there's bad Buddhists. There's good Hindus, there's bad. Well, everybody is a blend of both, right? Everyone's good and bad. Like, I'm good and bad, like there's no, like, people will come to me and go, oh, you're an angel. And I'm like, no, I'm not. Like, I do stupid stuff just like everyone else. You know what I mean? Just with this one thing, I'm trying to be good, So, I mean, unfortunately, I know monks that have kicked dogs, like I know, but it's not because you can't go in and going, oh, the guy's wearing a robe, that means he's holy, no, just everyone's, you meet the fake babas and then the good babas, you meet the, it's this, same thing. There's good Christians, there's bad, or just people in general. But, I will say the Dalai Lama, his trust gave a little bit of money years ago. And then, also there was, another guy named the Karmapa who lived there for a while. And he was younger, and ran a different monastery, and we would get, grants from him. I think we got 3 different grants, but then now he doesn't live there anymore. He left India. So, I mean, I think the Dalai Lama's messaging is wonderful, but it's not like all of his followers are going to automatically do something. Yeah. I mean, honestly, some of the worst offenders are the Western Buddhists that come and live there. Like, over the years, I would get messages saying, Deb, could you move the street dogs in front of my house because I can't meditate? Deb, can you come rescue this dog because I have to run to a teaching? Even can you wait there for half an hour so we can get our van and we want to make nope, got to get to a teaching. I've had a guy who was a known British Tibetan translator and scholar throw rocks at our dogs and kick a dog. So, like, I also know wonderful Western Buddhists. So, people are people, but people are people. And same, and people always going, oh, the Tibetans must be so lovely. I go, yeah, I know so many lovely Tibetans that like love dogs and come help and, call in for rescues and all this kind of stuff. But they're not all that way just because they're Tibetan.
Yeah, but we have seen that viral video where monks are putting dogs inside a sack and they're about to relocate or throw them somewhere.
Yeah. I mean, I use that as an educational teaching because what happens is that those nuns, they were not, that wasn't their decision. Like, they were told by the administration of the nunnery to move these dogs, to move this dog. Right. So they were doing it. It wasn't like their decision. And this happens quite a bit. Like, we've even had to have Maneka Gandhi call certain institutions who were known for relocating dogs regularly, like driving them 2 hours away and just relocating. And I don't want to get beat up for this because, I'm not bashing the Dalai Lama or Buddhism or any religion. All religions tell us to do good things, right? It's just that not everyone likes dogs. And then they're dealing with this situation where maybe no one's properly attending it. Like, the government's not doing spay neuter. The government's not doing rabies vaccination. The government's not getting behaviorists in and trying to get these dogs adopted. We're relying on these small NGOs to try to figure out this problem. So, I mean, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, it's tough. So no, we don't get regular anything from those institutions, or any local institution.
So that's a fact. And with this bold answer, it's time to wrap up our podcast.
Yeah, now I'm in trouble.
What
Yeah.
a journey we walked through this. This is literally bold and raw from Deb. Deb, how did you find Let's Off Leash platform, and what's your experience with us?
This has been great. You guys are really professional. You ask really tough questions, I would say. And I hope I answered them okay. I just to wrap it up, like, I don't know why, but I fell in love with Indian dogs and people and culture and food. And so even though I had all these crazy experiences that some were negative, it didn't deter me or make me feel badly, towards India or Dharamsala or any of these things. And I always tell people, because people will be like, why don't just one more thing about my country. It's like, yeah, my country has tons of problems. And I'm also involved in other things here, whether it's giving or, types of things. But for some reason, my heart ended up
Over there.
over there.
Yeah,
There's no real explanation for it.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's just a connections happen.
It's a connection. Yeah. Yeah.
It is what it is.
Exactly. So thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Yeah, and something you do not have any explanations.
Yeah.
It's just the connections. It's just the emotion, like emotion is attached.
Emotions attached. I just followed a gut feeling, and this is what happened.
And that's amazing wrap up from Deb Jarrett. Thank you so much for staying tuned until this. We love you all. Keep loving all animals. They deserve the better. Deb, your dedication to stray animals is nothing short of inspiring. Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing your journey with us and for all the incredible work you continue to do for dogs, both in Dharamshala and beyond. To our listener, if Deb's story touched your heart, consider supporting Dharamshala Animal Rescue, most commonly and famous as DAR. Whether through donation, volunteering, or simply spreading the word, DAR. We will give all the link below. Let's make a difference together because every street dog deserves a chance at better life. Remember, whether near or far, we all have the power to make a difference in the lives of animals. Stay tuned, stay compassionate, and keep helping those in need. Until next time, we will meet again with something like this, passionate about animal and who talks about animal. If you do not know, Turkey is going through a massacre. Do not forget to save animal Turkey mission and let's in community call globally to stop this massacre of stray dogs and cats. Thank you so much. Signing off from Kasturi Jha.